Welcome student and resident members to tonight's MSIG webinar. This one is called Women in Sports Medicine. Each of our speakers are going to share their journey into sports medicine and spend some time giving their insight on a topic and their advice and recommendations for your careers. I'm Alex Ackman. I'm one of two MS2 at-large members right now on the MSIG National Board. I'm in my second year at Georgetown University School of Medicine, and I'm also the pod leader, which is like the liaison for all the schools in the Northeast United States. I'm the pod leader for the Northeast United States and Canada. And then our president, who is supposed to be here tonight with me, Melissa Jackals, she is in her fourth year at University of Hawaii, and she is doing her residency residency interviews right now. So we wish her best of luck. So tonight, we have 5 speakers tonight. If you have any questions, please feel free to share them. Just submit them in the chat and we'll get to them in between each speaker's talk. So I wanted to introduce everyone. We have Dr. Giselle Aerni. She's the founder of Madam Athlete LLC, where she elevates women working in a male-dominated field as host of Madam Athlete podcast and creator of Women's Career Transformation Academy. She's been a team physician for NCAA D1 universities, WNBA, and the MLB, MILB, as well as the program director for 2 sports medicine fellowships. Dr. Aerni loves reading, container gardening, swear words, and her husband, Jim. Next, we have Dr. Kelsey Logan. She's the director of the Division of Sports Medicine at Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center. Is an associate professor of pediatrics and internal medicine at University of Cincinnati. She completed her residency in internal medicine and pediatrics at University of Mississippi Medical Center and sports medicine fellowship at University of Wisconsin. Dr. Logan is passionate about involving children in physical activity and sports. She works to improve the lives of children through physical activity by local and state advocacy efforts and by working with local schools to improve student athlete life. Dr. Logan served on the NCAA Committee of Competitive Safeguards and Medical Aspects of Sports in the AAP Executive Committee of the Council of Sports Medicine and Fitness, and served on the board of directors for the American Medical Society for Sports Medicine. She is a member of the board of directors for the Ohio AAP chapter and is on the medical advisory committee for the Ohio High School Athletic Association and Ohio Athletic Trainers Association, for whom she was elected a 2013 Team Physician of the Year. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Kelsey Logan. Next, we have Dr. Marci Goolsby. She's board certified in family medicine, a subspecialty of sports medicine. She's the medical director of the Women's Sports Medicine Center at Hospital for Special Surgery in New York. She served as a team physician for the US Biathlon for 5 years and went to the 2018 Winter Olympics, as well as 10 seasons with the WNBA New York Liberty. She is the second president of the American Medical Society for Sports Medicine and will serve as the president in 2023 to 2024. She played college basketball at UC San Diego, and she met her B-baller hubby, Clark, getting their ankles taped, and now have 2 jokester kids, Penny, who's 8, and Nolan, who's 6. She also has a dog named Willie Nelson. Next, we have Dr. Amy Powell. She's a sports medicine physician practicing at the University of Utah and is the current AMSSM president. She's a professor in the Department of Orthopedics and an adjunct professor in the Department of Medicine. She enjoys working with Utah athletes, currently taking care of women's gymnastics and men's basketball as her primary teams. I think she's joining us live from the media room right now. Her primary academic focus is in medical education, teaching first and second year medical students about musculoskeletal system and sports medicine. Thank you for joining us. And last, we have Dr. Daphne Scott. She's an assistant attending physician at the Hospital for Special Surgery in New York City. She's board certified in the family medicine with a certificate of added qualification in sports medicine. Dr. Scott is assistant professor of clinical medicine at Weill Cornell Medical College in New York City. She serves as the head team physician for the Westchester Knicks NBA, it's the NBA G League. She's the assistant team physician for the New York Knicks, and she's the head consulting sports medicine physician for the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship. She served as a team physician for USA Track and Field at the 2017 World Championships in London and the 2019 Pan Am Games in Lima. And prior to her arrival at the Hospital for Special Surgery, she served as a team physician at the University of Arizona. So thank you all for joining us tonight. I'm very excited to hear everyone speak. Up first, we have Dr. Kelsey Logan. Will give a talk on promoting yourself and your elevator speech.
Thanks, Alex. This is such a cool opportunity, and I really wish that I had had it when I was at your stage in your career, because when I was a medical student, I really did not have any idea what I was going to do with my life as a physician. And if I could have guessed what I would have done, it would not look anything like my life is now. So when I was a medical student, so I went to the University of Alabama, and I loved everything except for psychiatry. And so I couldn't rule a lot out. And I remember going to a talk while I was a med student about med peds, which at that point was a really small program. And I thought, this is for me. I can do a lot of stuff with this. And so I ended up doing a med peds residency. And even though I had majored in sports medicine when I was in college, and it was actually a pre-med major, it was the only program like that in the country at that time. And when I went to medical school, I thought I would do orthopedic surgery, but I just didn't like it. It just was not me. And so I decided to do med peds. And then when I went to residency, you know, a med peds residency does not have any sports medicine in it. There's barely any outpatient care. I didn't know how to diagnose a rash that wasn't life-threatening. So I got through residency, and I thought I would do neonatology. I actually liked geriatrics, cardiology, IB. There were a lot of things that I was really interested in. But what I did not want to do, I knew I did not want to be in the hospital in the middle of the night for the rest of my life, tubing 23-week babies. I didn't want to do it. And so I knew I wanted a family, and I wanted to be able to be with them. And so there was a small family medicine program at the University of Mississippi that had sports medicine, and I started hanging out with those guys, and I decided that's what I wanted to do. So I ended up doing a pediatric and adolescent fellowship at Wisconsin, and it was 2 years at that point. At that point, there were only 5 programs like that in the country. And I felt like I was very lucky to get a spot. And so I ended up matching there. And for a long time, I split my career between internal medicine and pediatrics, and I did some primary care. But now I do almost exclusively child and adolescent sports medicine. I don't do any primary care anymore. And I get to be with my kids a lot. They come to games with me. I get to coach their teams. I mean, I have a pretty flexible life, and we just have a lot of fun all the time. We play sports all the time. That's our life. And so whether I'm in clinic or at home, I'm getting to do the things that I love to do. And I feel like their lives are enriched. So it's really pretty cool. So if you like kids and you want to go into pediatrics, email me after this, and I'll be happy to talk to you offline. Okay, let me share just a few screens about your elevator speech. I didn't know anything about an elevator speech when I was a med student or a resident, and I wish that I had, because I missed a lot of opportunities to advance my own career just from ignorance. So, Joan, give me the thumbs up if you can see that okay. All right, thank you. Okay, why? Why would you do an elevator speech? So, I mean, you think you know what that is. It's like 30 to 60 seconds to tell somebody about yourself. So like as much time as you would be going up an elevator with somebody. So why do you need an elevator speech? Introducing yourself and your skills professionally is something that you have to purposely do. It comes naturally to very few of us. And so you have to purposely think about this. It helps you think through how best to present yourself in interviews. Oh, you guys are going to have so many interviews, and you're going to need to really be able to talk yourself up. And then in academic social events, taking advantage of career opportunities that can come unexpectedly, really in an elevator. I was in an elevator with our new chair of pediatrics within her first month at our institution, and I found myself standing there next to her. We didn't really know each other, and I needed to tell her in about 45 seconds all about our program and why she should funnel money our way. So it really does pay to just be prepared, be ready. So the purpose is to let others know who you are and about your abilities to engage, educate, and persuade stakeholders in your life, in your career, and then present your best self in a very short amount of time. Okay, steps to creating. Well, you've got to introduce who you are. You've got to very quickly be able to articulate your area of expertise or your role, how you're relevant. What is your ask? Talk about your goal or your project or your next step for your project or your career. And then talk about what you add to that, your specific skills, the things that are unique about you and that bring value to that project and why they should support you in your career. And then lastly, at the very end, how can you take action? Always ask the person how you can follow up, how you can contact them. Try to exchange cards if you can, and then do follow up. Be a person who does what you say you're going to do and do it on time. Pearls, you have to practice your speech. When I started learning about this, I spent several sessions, like 30 to 45 minutes at a time, just thinking through scenarios, what I wanted to say, and then practicing it. And if you can pitch it to a mentor or a professional friend and get their feedback, that's helpful. Before you go to a conference or interviews or potentially big meetings, make sure that you update it. Think through again the words and what has changed, and if your ask has changed, and make sure that you have something ready. You will get the opportunity to talk about yourself, and you need it to be impactful. Think about the variety of different projects you have or career scenarios, and you might have to create 3 or 4 of those elevator speeches. Think about your dreams and what you want and tailor something to different opportunities that you might be presented with. For example, you might talk about your project differently to a potential funder than you would a potential research collaborator. And then if you haven't completed the project and you really don't have concrete evidence of the things that you've done, those outcomes yet, it's okay to go ahead and talk about a hoped for result, something that you dream about and what you think will happen. And then just my last 2 slides, which I'll make sure that you have access to, I wanted just to give you some examples. This slide is some examples of things that I sat down and wrote several years ago when I was thinking about this and the opportunities that I might have to talk to people. And so you talk about your passions, talk about who you are and the skills that you bring to your unique area. And then you talk about what you've done. Some concrete facts that might make a difference to that person and the results that you've gained, and then talk about your hopes and dreams. And then I put a different elevator speech here. This is something that we've worked on in the Ohio AAP, just an elevator speech for a program for Lead-Free Ohio that we have. So these are some examples that you could model on, and you can find some other examples online. And that's it. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Logan. Next up, we have Giselle Aerni. She's going to speak on finding and serving your mission and vision.
Hey everyone, I'm excited to be here. Medicine was my backup plan. In college, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life, but I was nerdy and was like, all right, well, I'll just go ahead and start taking all these prereqs and until I figure out what I really want to do with my life. And it just turned out I liked it and it went pretty well. I was always drawn to sports medicine, being active and athletic. But I also went through med school liking everything and just being nerdy and excited about all of it. I had this idea that I would be a team physician for a college or university, not knowing that those jobs existed. I don't even understand why I didn't know, but I just thought I would con some student health to like hire me, and I would be able to just like start working with all their teams, and I would like sweet talk them into making this job. And it turns out it exists. So that made my life a lot easier. I debated between family medicine and emergency medicine because I like the variety. I like procedures. I like doing all the different things. And I talked to an emergency medicine attending program director, and she was like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I was like, wow, I think I want to work out of a student health and take care of athletes. And she was like, Giselle, that's what the family medicine docs do. And we know that emergency medicine also goes into family medicine, but by and large, the majority still goes through family med. And so went that way, never looked back, did my sports medicine fellowship. And I kind of talk a little bit about my career in my slides. So I'm going to go ahead and share them and get started here. Okay. So I'm going to be talking about finding and serving your mission and vision and how to really expand the possibilities and satisfaction of your career by discovering and focusing on your purpose. So I have had a pretty awesome career, cannot lie. I've been team physician, like Alex said, for D1, D3, for WNBA, for juniors hockey, for high schools, for mass events, for all the things. I have also been fellowship director at 2 programs. I have taught undergraduate courses at a community college. On paper, on that CV, fairly objectively, subjectively, I've done a lot of pretty amazing things. I didn't realize when I was going through fellowship, when I was going through all of this career, I was looking at what job did I want when I got out. I was saying I would like to be a team physician at a college or university. That was the goal. That was it. It was like that or bust. I was really fortunate that my first job was at UConn and I was half team physician, but I was also half associate program director, which I never would have gone for, but that was the same program I was a fellow at. It's just sort of what worked out. And it turned out to be fantastic because what I was paying no attention to is that I actually really love teaching and I really love mentoring other people and helping them to kind of grow into their most awesome, fullest potential. And I wasn't even thinking that. I just thought, oh, the sports medicine job. What's the best sports medicine job I can think of? Team physician at a college. And so I think I got a little nudge that way. I have had some changes in my career, which I'll come back to. But I want to get to this idea of thinking about your career, not from what job you're going to have, because there are really only so many in-house D1 team physicians. Right? Like, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying there's not a chance, but if we're being really blunt about the facts, there's only so many of those jobs. So if the only thing that will satisfy your happiness is a job that is an outcome that you do not have 100% control over, you can set yourself up as good as possible, be as strong as possible, make all your connections, do your networking, get in the right fellowship. You know, you can do everything you can try to do, but you ultimately don't always have control over, do you get that job or not, right? And so, but if instead of looking at a job title as your ultimate goal, you take the time to go, what is my vision and my mission for my career? Okay, so your vision is that big picture. What do you want to see in the world? This is the aspirational goal of, this is the impact that I could have if I'm able to do the work that I love, serve the people I want to serve, have the impact I want to have. And the mission is sort of how you go about doing that. What are you doing it? Why is this important to you? All right. I pulled out a couple examples because sometimes I always think examples help kind of explain things. So I'm looking at example 1 and 2 are 2 different sports medicine physicians. They are both like, that is my job. I am a sports medicine doc. That is my title. But one sports medicine doc, their vision might be to see children everywhere being active, engaged in sport, and setting a foundation for future health and wellness. And their mission is to provide the best medical care to pediatric sports medicine patients to help them get back to sport and activity as quickly, safely as possible, while also educating kids and their parents to promote physical activity in the community. So that's their mission, and it's to serve that vision of like healthy, active, happy kids participating in sport, right? Another sports medicine doc who maybe went to the same fellowship, who's working at the same academic university setting, they might be in the same department. They might have a vision that is, they want to see diversity, true diversity in sports medicine that reflects the population and provides representation for the patients and athletes that they take care of. This is the like lovely world picture that they see, right? And their mission, they're going to go about this by recruiting and training sports medicine fellows from diverse backgrounds. They're going to promote the DEI measures within graduate medical education. They're going to sponsor early career faculty members from underrepresented minorities for academic positions, research opportunities, and within local and national organizations, right? These are two totally different people, and they're both sports medicine physicians. And they might both be associate professors, and they might both work at the same university, but they have completely different visions. And that is going to open up all their opportunities and the ways that they can serve and the ways that they can make a difference. And when that's the goal, when that vision is the goal, then if that one job doesn't work out, you know that there's 10, 50, 100 other ways that you could get after it. If you're needing to try to think, how do you come up with your vision? How do you come up with your mission? And I will tell you in just a quick moment that I did not realize my vision for years. Like I just did not understand it. But think about, what are you passionate about? Think about which patient encounters do you leave feeling like you made a difference, right? Because not everyone wants to see a full spectrum of patients, and that's okay. That's great. That's why there's so many of us. Somebody's going to love the younger kids. Somebody's going to love the adolescents, the older folks. Like, that's great. There's all of us. What gets you excited? What gets you riled up? Like, what are you mad about? What inequalities are out there that you can just like, you're going to go to town, right? What volunteer tasks do you love doing despite the extra hours? If someone comes to you and they need help, they have a mental health crisis, are you just like, please let me stop whatever I'm doing because I want to sit here and make sure that you're okay? And I'm just going to actually leave this feeling great about it and not feeling upset that I missed dinner, but like, because this is what I love, right? And once you have that vision, that high level, this is what I'd like to see in the world, what are all the different ways you could get there, right? It could be being a D1 team physician. It could be being a D3 team physician because your mission is helping college-aged athletes go out into the world healthy and safe and start to learn about taking care of their own medical care and wellness and advocating for themselves. Maybe that's your vision. Your mission, the way that you go about that could be by being that team physician, but it could also just be that you do that in your own practice. It could be that you have a podcast or you start a blog or you do these other things, right? There's a lot of different ways to serve that vision. So it gives you lots of opportunities. So for me, like I said, so my career had lots of many amazing things. And I didn't always realize what my vision was actually, truly, but I was actually still serving it the whole time. And I just didn't totally notice. So this was our last vacation, me and my husband, before pandemic. We went to Oktoberfest in Munich and Portugal. This is us in Portugal. And I had not taken a vacation in the fall in my entire life. Like not in med school, not in residency, not in fellowship, like definitely not in my sports medicine career when I was being a sideline team physician. And we took 2 weeks off in the fall. And I was like, oh, wow, this is different. I guess I could maybe have like a different life here. What am I thinking about? Then pandemic hit pretty much right after that. And all of a sudden I wasn't working games, evenings and weekends. And I had all this free time. And I said, well, what is this life? I don't have hobbies. I don't know what to do with this free time. All I have been doing 100% is putting my head down and just doing the next thing I thought you were supposed to do in the sports medicine physician career path. And by taking the time to reflect and go, what was all the work that I love doing the most? It was empowering my women fellows, my women residents, my women athletic trainers to not just learn the medical knowledge, but to figure out how to negotiate for themselves, how to advocate for themselves, how to craft their elevator pitch, how to navigate office politics, right? How to figure out their research question and have the best thesis they could have. And it was really all about reaching their full potential. And I had been doing this my whole life as a camp counselor, as a Taekwondo instructor, as a physician, even in taking care of my athletes. When I was helping my athlete reach their full potential, and we were talking about things beyond their injury, but how is this affecting their academic career? How is this affecting their social situation? Or how's their mental health? That's the stuff that I loved, and I felt like I made the biggest difference. So I started the Madam Athlete podcast in August. Last year, I had gotten it prepped up for a couple of months, but it launched in August last year. And then the job that I had at the time was not serving this mission of mine. It wasn't serving this vision to help support and empower women to build their confidence, to take control of their career, and to just crush it. And so in September, I quit my job, and I'm not like employed. I'm not doing a normal sports medicine job right now, like a quote unquote normal job. But my vision is clear. My vision is about helping empower women to build their confidence and get after their career. And I have the podcast, it's 66 episodes strong now. I started an online course, the Women's Career Transformation Academy, where I help women kind of navigate this work that we're talking about tonight. And then this month, I've started a free 30-day challenge for academic writing. And all of this stuff didn't happen until I leaned into my vision and mission. And that's when I made all these things happen. And it was recognizing that I have this higher calling, that this is who I'm meant to serve, and I can do it in so many different ways. And it isn't even that I've ruled out having a clinical sports medicine job in the future, but I want to, the pandemic was a crazy time. It is a crazy time for all of us. And it really gave me a chance to say, I want to take a deeper dive into this and really commit to this business and see what I can accomplish and serve in this new way. And anytime that I have a student reach out to me to say like, oh my gosh, Giselle, this is incredible. I just went after a job that like I had 2 job interviews. I had 2 offers, and one was that like big ego team physician job. But this other one, man, I would get to help craft a curriculum for a med school. I would help build a sports medicine program. And like, I'm really excited about that. And it doesn't look as big on my ego, but that's the one that serves my mission and vision. And I took it, and I'm so freaking excited. Then I die of happiness. So what I am hopeful is to ask for you, if you can imagine what it would feel like as you go through your career, to have a guiding vision and mission, to expand the opportunities and possibilities and go after goals that are in alignment with your purpose beyond just, can I get that job title, right? This was your first step, being here, learning all of the skills, all the amazing speakers are going to talk to you about, to expand how you consider and envision your career beyond that job title. The next step, what I would like to challenge you tonight, is to take an hour in the next 3 days by the end of the weekend and draft a mission and vision. Just put a 60-minute timer on the clock and just what comes to mind. What are those things that you're passionate about? What are those things you get riled up about? What do you love to do? Who do you want to serve? What are all the different ways that you could serve them? What are all the different approaches that you could have? And I would love it if you let me know. You can reach me, DM me, you can email me, Giselle@madamathlete.com. I would love to see what you're thinking in your career. This is the stuff that I get jazzed about. So thank you for having me this evening, and good luck getting after it with your careers.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that speech. That was great. Does anyone have any questions? We can, if you have any, you can just type them in the chat box. And if not, we can move on to Dr. Amy Powell. She is currently the AMSSM president. She's going to speak today about leadership.
So, can you guys hear me okay? Awesome. Thank you, Joan. Let me get to slideshow here. Okay, cool. So I don't have any disclosures really, except that I don't have this figured out. And Joan gave us some guiding advice for, how she wanted this to go down. But I think really the key is that none of us have it figured out. We're all in this together, and I think we should all enjoy the journey. I think Dr. Aerni just basically said that. So life takes funny twists and turns, and I'll just kind of start with what I was asked to speak about. So just a little bit about my journey into sports medicine, leadership in general, which has 5,000 definitions, leadership within AMSSM specifically, and then women in AMSSM leadership. And then just a few closing thoughts, like what I wish I knew at this stage, mostly geared toward medical students and residents. So this is me. I grew up in Tacoma, Washington, and I went to Smith College, a small liberal arts women's college in Western Massachusetts as an undergrad. I was a swimmer there, but it was like, hey, if you have a chemistry test the next day, you don't have to come to practice. So it was not like competitive collegiate sports. I went to University of Washington for medical school. That's the cherry blossoms in this right-handed picture here. And decided to stay in Seattle for residency. And I did residency at a community-based program because at that point I knew 100% that I was going to be a general internist in the city of Seattle for the rest of my career. And I knew that this community-based residency program, Virginia Mason, hired a lot of its own graduates. And so I chose to do this residency in primary care internal medicine. And that just meant at that time that instead of doing rotations through inpatient cardiology consults, I did outpatient cardiology consults. And they forced us to rotate through the practical specialties early on. And so one of the practical specialties in my intern year was orthopedics. And I met my mentor, who is here. This is Dr. Rosemary Agostini. I elected to rotate with her probably 3 more times during my residency. And by my 3rd or 4th or 80th rotation, she kind of was like, you seem to be interested in this. Would you consider doing a fellowship? And I told her straight up, I was like, I can't, I'm an internist, that's for family medicine doctors. And she totally paved the way. So one of the themes of my hopeful conversation with you all today is like, find your mentor, because they can really, really make a difference. Rosemary was actually the first sports medicine fellow in the United States, and did a fellowship at the Cleveland Clinic, which is this photo here. So I ended up following in her footsteps, did a fellowship at the Cleveland Clinic, and ended up at Utah, which is where I'm at now, right out of fellowship. And it was going to be a 3 to 5 year gig, and I've been here for 18 years and can't imagine doing anything different. And Utah's been a great place to build a practice and build a community. And I think that's kind of what you're going to hear over and over again from people who have felt like they've found their home. So that's a little bit about my journey into sports medicine. It was by accident, I think is the short version. But like Dr. Logan said, I think I went in thinking I wanted to do orthopedic surgery. My exposure to sports medicine as a kid athlete was mostly dealing with orthopedic surgeons taking care of sports injuries, but I didn't know that there was a different path, and I absolutely hated surgery. So for those of you still in preclinical medical school, just keep an open mind, because there are a lot of things out there that you don't even know exist. Sports medicine not being one of them, because you're here. So there's that. So leadership, if you go to Amazon, there are thousands of books on leadership. And I found this kind of basic definition. So what is leadership? So set a vision, create a path, choose a team, trust and empower your team, measure our outcomes, and then start all over. But the big point that I wanted to make about this really was to say, like, you can start small. So we're not talking about being your school of medicine class president or a chief medical resident or department chair or a medical school dean or AMSSM president. This is like thinking about what you do on a daily basis. So for preclinical students, like your case-based learning sessions where you're in a small group, like how do you create a vision for your group at that time? Because even sessions like that can help you practice your leadership skills and empower your cohorts, your classmates, you're even in residency situations to be enabled. And so I think that's an important part of it. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It can start very, very small. In an organization like AMSSM, we're doing this on a regular basis, setting a vision, creating a path, empowering our teams, and then starting all over again. So it's been really fun to be a part of this kind of leadership, but it doesn't have to be big. And I think practicing these skills early on makes it easier to advance those skills later as you progress in your career. So leadership within AMSSM. So this bottom right picture, I put, this is my fellowship program director, Dr. Bob Demeff. He's another AMSSM past president. So I was frustrated maybe 2 or 3 years out of fellowship. Like, I feel like I'm stuck. How do I get involved in AMSSM? I have no idea how to do this. And he said, well, everybody knows that all you need to do is start involvement with a committee, join a committee. That's all you need to do. And I was like, who is everybody that knows this? I had no idea that that's actually how you got involved. But I put the instructions here just so everybody here knows. So if you go to the AMSSM website, there's a tab that says About Us, and then there's a drop-down menu for committees. There are only maybe 1 or 2 committees that are not open to medical students or residents or fellows maybe, and they're everything is pretty much open. But if you are super excited about getting involved in sports medicine and getting involved within this organization, that is absolutely the way to start. There are small projects that are very specific within each committee where you can say to the committee chair, hey, I'd really like to be involved in this, be active, motivated, productive within that project, and then you get to do more stuff. So it helps to build your network. You get to meet people. It shapes the future, or committee work shapes the future of our organization, and you just advance into leadership roles and find kind of what you love. Like Dr. Aerni just said, find your passions, find what you really enjoy. I mean, who knew that she was going to love teaching? So I think that there are lots of things that can come from simple things like that. So leadership within AMSSM starts with committee involvement, and it's easy. It's not hard at all. So just talking a little bit about women in medicine, women comprise greater than 50% right now of the physician workforce, but only make up, you see the numbers here, 22% of full professors, 18% of department chairs, 17% of medical school deans. And in spite of a lot of effort, there is still a persistent wage gap for the exact same job. So there's still a problem in leadership for women in medicine. And since this is a women in sports medicine talk, I thought I would at least mention that. I did want to also mention, though, that we're doing pretty darn well organizationally. So these are our current, past, current, and future presidents. So looking at the organization as a whole, we're at just above 30% of women presidents, so women leaders of our organization. And I think women represent, Joan might be able to correct me, but I think it's something like 26, 27% of membership. So women are doing well within sports medicine. And I don't know why. I have theories, and this is what I put this slide up for. So I think that we've been successful because our allies and sponsors are so numerous. So I think that all the women speaking tonight can identify probably multiple male and female allies, sponsors, mentors that have helped them over time. I have too many to number, honestly, but I think that it comes from just being in a sports environment. This is my theory. I can't prove this, but I think that women in this organization support each other professionally, and that is, I think sports are competitive, right? But sports are also collaborative. So because so many people come from a sports background, it's sort of like a team-based effort. And when you see talent, you can help that person. And that, I think, is what this organization has done really effectively, way better than many other organizations of our size. So I mentioned lifting as you rise. So identify talent around you. This is maybe, it might not be totally directed to first and second year medical students, but thinking of the residents, future fellows, current fellows that could be on the call, identify talent and help to craft it. So even for second-year medical student, you're going to have a first-year medical student who's like, hey, I hear you're interested in sports medicine. How do I get more involved in my local interest group? So identify those people and help to develop them. And I think it's important for all of us to work on mentoring the next generation. I also think, and I think it was Dr. Aerni that mentioned this, I have a very personal investment, not literal investment, but I would love to see our future sports medicine physicians look a lot more like the athletes that we take care of. And so looking at our current athletes and younger patients as being future medical students and trying to kind of push them in that direction, coming from somebody in our position, even a medical student or a resident, I know some people don't feel like, oh, I'm not there yet, but you are. And I think it's important to embrace that now and really encourage people who look up to you already to think about this as a career. We need to look a lot more like our student athletes that we care for. So just finishing up, just a few top things I wish I knew earlier. So everyone feels overwhelmed by all of this. It's not just you. So recognize that. Simple things just in terms of preparing for where you're at. So reading at night, preparing for the next day, especially for those in the clinical setting. But be sure to sleep. You're not going to be effective if you're tired. Be really, really nice to all of the support staff. Again, this is more for the clinical setting, but in folks that are in preclinical medical school settings, taking care of your coordinators and people that know how frustrated things are when grades aren't posted on time and things like that. It's super frustrating, but if you take good care of them, they will take good care of you. Again, more for clinical people, when your attending is explaining a problem to you or explaining a problem to a patient, listen carefully because they're teaching you as well. I didn't learn that until way too late. So that's a really important tip. Develop and use your network and absolutely start right here. So this is a great group of people to build upon. And I mentioned the committee structure within our organization. Find your mentors and sponsors and use them. They will take you so far. Dr. Logan mentioned this, be ready to promote yourself, even if it's not your style. So practice that elevator speech or multiple versions of the elevator speech. And definitely, and I will do this, Dr. Logan, I will practice it before the next meeting. So I think it's important to do that. And then get involved. And I think this is a great organization to be involved in. It's very inclusive and doesn't, pretty much everybody is allowed. We're grassroots volunteers and medical students and residents and fellows are absolutely welcome to be a part of that. And then finally, even now, think about ways to give back to your communities that you serve. I think Dr. Aerni mentioned that. That's kind of where you find your passion and where you find your fulfillment in life. And that really is leadership. And so I will conclude with that and turn it back over to Alex. Thank you guys so much for inviting me. And it's really fun to be here with you all.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Powell. That was absolutely amazing. Thank you. So next we have Dr. Daphne Scott, and she's going to be speaking about serving as a team physician.
Sorry, guys. Okay. Perfect. Can everyone see my screen okay? No? Let's see. Okay. Let's try this again. Anything on my screen yet or no?
Nothing. Daphne, you want to email it to me real quick? You can start talking and then I'll share.
I'd emailed it to Joan. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. We had tried this right at the beginning. Give me 1 second. Okay. Okay, Marci, coming over to you now.
All right, you just start talking, then I'll pull up your slides.
Okay, awesome, guys. So thank you so much for having me here. It's really great to be here. So I think any of us this evening could have spoken about this topic. As you can see, Dr. Powell at the game that she's covering, Dr. Aerni's talked about all of her time as a team physician. Same with Dr. Goolsby. So I'm just going to briefly go over what it means for me to serve as a team physician. I know that we were asked to kind of talk about our journey. So my first glimpse of what it looked like to be a team physician was at the University of Southern California, and that's where I did my undergraduate work. So I served as a student assistant in the Department of Athletic Medicine. And so there, every evening, they had, let's see, like they have these doctor clinic visits. So the first, there'd be the internal medicine room and there'd be the orthopedic surgery room. And so with looking at that, I thought the only way I could get into sports medicine was to be an orthopedic surgeon. So I went to med school thinking, okay, I'm going to be an orthopedic surgeon. And there I got to meet Kelsey Scott, who was the head team physician at the University of Nevada, Reno, and got to shadow with her and met a lot of family medicine doctors, got to my clinical rotations and figured out that I loved everything, even psychiatry, Dr. Logan. So I loved it all. And I really loved being in the operating room with the surgeons, but I also really liked delivering babies. And ultimately, I found that family medicine would probably be the best place for me. It would be a way that I'd be able to do everything. And I kind of envisioned that I would end up being this full spectrum family medicine doctor, seeing patients in the hospital at times and seeing, thank you, Dr. Goolsby, seeing patients in the hospital at times, and then, covering sports and delivering babies and doing a little bit of everything. But, things change. And so I ended up doing my residency at the University of Washington in family medicine. And, I was able to get a ton of delivering babies out of my system, got into a sports medicine fellowship at the University of Arizona, thought I would stay there, but as things happen, I got recruited 6 years ago to come out to New York City and join the staff at the Hospital for Special Surgery. Yes. So I get to work with the wonderful Dr. Goolsby, and she's actually been a great mentor and someone who actually got me involved in some of the coverage that I did. So since I've been here, I've been able to work with the New York Liberty and helping with coverage there. I'm now serving as a head team physician for the Westchester Knicks. I'm an assistant team physician for the New York Knicks as of this year, and I consult with the UFC. Here's some pictures of my journey. Dr. Goolsby, we can go on to the next slide. So, what does a team physician do? And I know we've all seen those memes of what does society think we do and what do we actually do? So a lot of people think, well, we just cover games and this is it. But what we actually do, there's so much more than that. We serve as an advocate. I think first and foremost, your job is to do what's best for the athlete. The health and safety of the athlete goes above all else. You actually have to be a doctor. So you have to have the medical knowledge and the expertise to be able to evaluate and treat athletes. You're making clearance decisions on performing pre-participation physicals, you're making return to play decisions. In addition to that, you're caring for other people. I care for our coaches. I care for other staff members. If it's during a game and let's say a ref the night before injured their ankle, I'm taking a look at that. So you're caring for a lot of people. You're the leader of the team right now for the Westchester Knicks. My team consists of 2 athletic trainers, the orthopedic surgeon that I work closely with, our strength and conditioning coach. So I serve as a leader of that team. I report to our chief medical officer, but I'm leading that team. You are a coordinator and you are a communicator. So if I'm not able to kind of take care of something and I need to have an athlete go for imaging, or I need to have an athlete see a consultant, I'm coordinating that. I'm talking with that person, and then I'm communicating that information, not only to the athlete, but to the team, to the administration, like I said, to our chief medical officer, but I'm communicating that. And as you work more and more with professional athletes, you may be talking to agents and other people. You're a teacher, so you're continuing to teach athletes about what's going on with their condition. You're teaching, maybe the GM of our organization, he wants to know more about what's going on with this. You're teaching him about that, okay? As a team physician, remember that you need to remain a student. You have to remain hungry to continue to learn. And this was so evident during COVID. I don't know how many nights I was staying up late to read and just try to kind of stay abreast of what was going on, because again, a lot of information was actually, people would hear it in the news first, and then you'd have an athlete come, hey doc, I heard about this. What is this? Can you explain this to me? Is this something that I need to use or want to use or should use or do? So again, staying a student. And then you're a planner. So kind of that picture down there, that's actually one of our orthopedic surgeons. Oh, go back. And they're wheeling an athlete out who's on a stretcher board. So you want to plan. You are the one who's responsible for coming up with your emergency action plan. You're the one who's got to be thinking about what's going on. You need to make sure that your team has rehearsed it. All of that is just so important. You can go on to the next slide. So I'll end with kind of 5 pearls that I have learned over the years. The first one I already said, but I just want to reiterate it. Your job is to do what's best for the athlete. And that's all day, every day. That's what you just have to keep at the top of your mind. Number 2 is something that another mentor of mine, Dr. Irf Asif, told me. He was actually our fellow at the University of Washington, and I was an intern. And he said, I came to him and I'm like, this is what I want to do. I want to be a sports medicine fellow. And he's like, before you can be a good team physician, you have to be a great, and for me, it was a family medicine doctor, but you fill that in with whatever you want to be. Just remember, you're not going straight from medical school into being a team physician. There's a whole residency in which you're going to learn. Every single day, I'm using things that I learned in residency to help treat my athletes, my patients as well. So remember, you have to be a great doctor before you can be a good team physician. Number 3, you got to volunteer. So Dr. Aerni said, being a team physician is kind of out of your control. You may want to be a team physician, but there may not be a position available for you. And when I first came to HSS, there wasn't. But guess what I did? I volunteered. If I had colleagues who were going on vacation and needed coverage, hey, I can help with that. Or I can help physicals. You need physicals. I'm more than happy to take the morning off and come and help, or take that Saturday and come and help, and just really just being available. And by doing that and getting to meet people, then opportunities started to open up. Again, we talked about being that student. So really never stop learning, okay? Stay current. You have to educate yourself. Make sure you go to conferences when you can, reading when you can. And then last, trust your training. This is actually a picture from the Giants locker room. We had a sports medicine conference that was there, and we got a tour, and I love this. So trust your training and be prepared. Yeah. So that's what I have, and look forward to taking questions later on with everyone else. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Dr. Scott. That was great. We're running a little tight on time, so we're going to move on to the next speaker. Let's do questions at the end for anyone who can stick around. I want to be sensitive to everyone on the East Coast. I know it's late. So our last speaker of the night is the AMSSM Second Vice President, Dr. Marci Goolsby, and she's going to be talking about balancing your career and your personal life.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Pleasure to be here with this incredible group who have what I like to call, who've been friend-tours for many years. You can have friend-tours that are younger and older than you, so also remember that. And remember that you're probably much more of a mentor to others than you think you are. So, okay, so I'm gonna talk about work-life balance, which kind of makes me chuckle a little bit. Being the one to talk about this. I put balance in there because, you know, I think it's important to know that that there's no, and I'm skipping ahead to one of my later slides, but that it's really not like you ever get to a balance, or that there's ever like actual true balance. You're just kind of always like adjusting this and then you adjust that, and it's really a process. And I could like cut and paste from everybody's talks tonight to apply to this one in terms of their backgrounds of how they got into sports medicine, and, you know, the importance of mentorship, and the importance of, you know, taking risks and putting yourself out there. But I think the biggest thing that I would kind of repeat in sort of my take home message is that you can always adjust and shift. And I have definitely learned that experience along the way as it relates to work-life balance in particular. So this is actually a slide directly from a talk that I gave. Daphne will recognize it, that I gave to our group when I was asked to talk about, like, how did you get involved in AMSSM? And so this was sort of my first slide, like, say yes, like Daphne said, you know, volunteer, say yes again, follow up and actually do the work. And this is how I got involved in AMSSM. I joined a committee, I started helping out, I got asked to do something else, then I was asked to be a subcommittee chair, and then it just happens. Don't be afraid to speak up and provide your opinion. It doesn't matter if you're the med student in the room or the person who's been AMSSM president. Everybody has an important opinion, and everybody should have something valuable to add to the conversation. Show up. So sign up for things, show up, volunteer, and then the committee work. And that really is where, at least for me, for AMSSM, was really relevant. But then my next slide that I gave in that talk was, but then, and I had like pulled a few quotes. Friends don't let friends say yes to everything. So I've had so many mentors in my life who are like, remember to say no, remember to say no, remember to say no. Do you want to do this project with me? Will you do this with me? So it's okay to say no, and that takes time, and it takes a lot of like self-discovery, I think, to kind of figure out when you want to say no and what you want to say no to. And then, and I'll give an example of where that has been recently for me, but, and then, you know, you need to reevaluate when your Amazon order history looks like this. And this is truly from my Amazon order history. So this is the disciplined pursuit of less, crazy busy, overstretched, overworked, and about to snap, the life-changing magic of beepity beep bleep. And then this is one of the kids' books. I just threw that in for fun. But you know, I do admittedly like these kinds of books for enjoyment, but it, you know, my point is like always reevaluate and kind of reassess. And for me, you know, as I kind of went along in my career, it was a lot of yes, 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 which I think is very valuable, because you may be like Giselle is now in having a vision and a mission. But I would say when I was looking at your talk, I was like, oh, I don't think I could do that. I really would struggle doing that now, much less like when I came out of training. And so I would also say, you know, it's fantastic if you do have a vision and sort of an idea of what you want to be, but it's also totally okay for that to not be what you end up doing. And then you discover, oh, well, maybe that wasn't like the thing that I wanted to do. So part of why I got into sports medicine, I grew up in a small town, Moraga, California, and across the street was St. Mary's College. And it's, if you guys don't know, it's a D1, it's in the same conference as Gonzaga. And that was sort of was like, oh, I want to be a team doc for a small college. And then in college, I had the opportunity to shadow Cindy Chang, which I think if you guys don't know who she is, she's a rock star legend of our organization. And it was like, that's what I want to be when I grow up. And so I, you know, it was like, I envisioned that that's what I wanted to do. And when I was looking for jobs after fellowship, I don't know if I'm allowed to share this, but I am. But I was offered a job. I was offered like a job of Cindy Chang, and I decided not to take it because it just at the time I thought that's what I wanted to do, and then when I was evaluating everything, I decided that wasn't what I wanted to do. And I have shifted a lot over the years. When Alex introduced me, he mentioned that I had been a team physician for biathlon. I had been the team physician for the New York Liberty, and I really loved it and love it. But I kind of was backing away from some roles, thinking I was going to take on another big role potentially that I decided to not take. And then I was like, I'm not currently a team physician and I'm enjoying it, but I do anticipate that I'm going to go back to it. And it's okay to like step away from something and then go back to something and kind of change things around. And it's really worked out well because, so for example, I'm going to coach my daughter's CYO basketball team this year, her first year of playing basketball. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was doing other things. So, you know, at the moment, it's the right thing to do, but every moment's going to change year to year to year. Another little lesson that I like for the work-life balance is, and it's 10:02, is kind of like work hard, play hard. You know, really commit to your family when you can commit to your family or yourself, like your wellness, your own time. It doesn't, I don't mean this to be just about those who have family, and be selective in both facets of things. So be selective in your life. Don't overfill your bucket there. And that can be socially, like be selective of how many dinners out per week. Like I did that at one point. I was like, I'm going to do one dinner out per week. And then I'm going to say no if something else comes up. And same thing with work, and just, you know, swapping things out, making sure that you're trying to keep that balance. And you also learn from your mistakes. It's definitely a journey, not a destination. And I have had moments where I was like, whoa, that was too much. And I never would have known that was too much if I hadn't actually experienced it and gone through it. And then the other thing that, this is sort of just a random pearl, but it was sort of mentioned before, is make sure that you are following your heart and not your ego. And I think that will really serve you well, being, you know, having your elevator speech, but being humble, you know, following what you really want to do, but make sure you're not following your ego, and just shifting and balancing and figuring out what's going to work for you at that time. One of my mentors here, when I kind of went in with him, I was like, what's my 5-year plan? What's my 10-year plan? He's like, Marci, you don't have to have a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan. Like, go with what's happening and take advantage of opportunities that come up. And it's great to have some vision, and there are appropriate times to have goals, but like, don't get so wrapped up in that. Just let things happen naturally and take advantage of the situation that seems right at the right time. And then I will just end on the work hard, play hard. Like, involve your family in your job when it's appropriate and when you can, and involve your work with your family when that's appropriate. So work hard, play hard, go big on Halloween or go home, I guess. My final message. I'm gonna stop sharing so that I can see if there's anything in the chat, because I do realize that we're over. And Kelsey's last parting words are learn to say no, which is applying to Elizabeth, but it also really played well into my talk too. So anybody have any questions or last comments? Otherwise, I'll turn it back over to Alex. Let's see if anyone else has anything to say. And thank you so much for having me. What a group to be a part of. I really enjoyed everybody's talks. I was frantically writing notes down.
We do have one question. I think, well, Elizabeth's question was answered by Dr. Logan, but Adrian L. Asked a question in the chat. It says, when looking for fellowship or jobs, how specifically is the work culture different when there are other women sports medicine physicians in the group.
Anybody want to take that? I don't know that I would, I mean, I think that if there's women in the group, I think that probably shows that there's a diverse group of people in that group, but it really depends on the size of the group. If there's like 2 or 3 physicians and they're all males, I certainly wouldn't count them out as having a great work culture. So I don't know that I would specifically say there's a huge difference. I think it depends on the individual. So it is nice to have, if you're a female, to have other female mentors. But I will say that some of the most important mentors in my life are males as well, and they can empower you just like another female can. So I wouldn't say you necessarily should go looking, in my opinion, for a group that specifically has females in it. I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in.
The places that I've worked have often had that, like you said, Marci, 2 or 3 team docs total. And so I'll be the only woman, and it's, you know, it's not like there was a department of 20 and I'm the only woman. But I think that there's some interesting science about women and networking, and that it's important to have a network of close women, not all at your same institution, not all at the same level as you. And I think with AMSSM, I think we do that. Like, I think that's what folks have all said. I think as women in AMSSM, we're like a friendly, supportive bunch. Like, it's been great. And so when I have things going down and I need to talk to someone and go, am I crazy, or is this just nonsense that's happening right now? Like, I know who I'm calling, and I have people, even if there's not someone in my department. I do think that that the individuals and the culture that's like one of the biggest job satisfaction for me is like, am I working with good people? Is it a supportive environment? Are they supportive of me and my career? Are they supportive of what we're trying to do here and taking care of our patients? Or am I sitting in just like a toxic mess? You know, I've had really incredibly supportive women colleagues, and I've also had the women who have that kind of queen bee syndrome where they can only be one and they have to push everybody else down. So, you know, I think investigate the culture of everyone.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think medicine's competitive, sports are competitive, but I liked what you said and what Dr. Powell said, where sports are competitive, but they're also collaborative. So it's just really important to find the people who you work best with around you and who can support you. We do have one last question, I think. Lauren Prisco and Amy actually asked the same. They wanted to know, I guess this is, anyone could field this, how you decided your residency specialty. And they asked specifically if it would be great if you could speak to the differences in family medicine versus PM&R in terms of training and career opportunities.
Can you guys hear me? So now I'm in the training room and there's an ice machine right next to me. So apologies. But I think what I'll say is I'm neither PM&R nor family medicine, but what I always tell people who want to do sports, and they know that up front, is to try to figure out what they would do if they didn't do sports. So on the days that you don't have any sports medicine patients, if you're going to end up seeing kids, is that your dream? If you're going to end up seeing traumatic brain injury, spinal cord injury as a general PM&R doc, is that your dream? If you would prefer to be in an emergency medicine setting doing acute issues, you know, codes and all the crazy stuff that goes on in the ER, or the things that are not emergent that come into the ER because they don't have a fallback plan, is that what you would like the most? So I think that looking at the field as a whole, not necessarily thinking about sports medicine at all, is what I generally counsel people to think about, because you can get in from a number of different backgrounds. So it really is just about finding not necessarily what your backup plan would be, but what you enjoy the most about each of the 5 specialties that can get you into sports medicine to be your kind of background, kind of baseline training.
I think I love that idea. And I always look also at, I'm a family medicine trained sports med. And for me, it was important to be really comfortable to take care of the mental health of my athletes and to manage their diabetes and to like do kind of that full spectrum. I wanted to help you with your birth control. I had WNBA players who got pregnant and like I would counsel them. I didn't deliver their babies anymore, but like they could come talk to me and I had delivered babies and I had done that. And so for me, I'm fully biased. That's what I did. That was like, when I looked at what kind of a sports medicine doc, what did I want to be doing in my practice as a sports medicine physician, I wanted to be a whole physician to my athletes. And I'm not saying that you can't be that if you go through the different routes, but I could certainly imagine, like I see a lot of ER docs do a lot of mass event coverage because that's part of their training is that event management. Or the PM&R docs do a ton of procedures. Like we did procedures in family medicine, but we did not do a billion of them. You know, you learn it in fellowship, like you're going to get it, but it might, you know, a little bit inform the work that you do as a sports medicine physician and just your approach to things.
Yeah, I would just kind of echo the same thing. I also was family medicine trained, and I liked the idea of, you know, having the medical background in managing athletes. But even in my like regular practice, I, you know, ordered a CT chest because of a pulmonary nodule today, and like, you know, called somebody back after I realized their blood pressure was high when they were in the office. So I kind of liked that background. And also just for life, I liked the idea of like, I'm sort of, you know, the family's family doctor, right? Like my sister calls me like, does this need stitches? And like friends will text from, you know, I kind of liked having that background. And I think if you think you really want to be a team physician, though there are PM&R doctors who do that, but having the medical, more of the medical background from one of the primary care specialties, I think lends itself a little bit better to that role. So if that's something you're interested in, that might, you know, help you, but you have to like what you do, like everybody's saying. So imagine yourself, like Amy said, doing the things that your training, you know, your residency is, because if you don't like primary care, don't do a primary care residency. Just to get into sports medicine, like go into sports medicine in a different way, and just make sure that you like your primary thing.
Okay, well, I think that was all the questions. I want to be sensitive on time, but I'd really like to thank the speakers for spending the evening with us. This webinar has been absolutely amazing, so thank you so much. It was kind of great. Each of you kind of gave your perspective. Some of you work as advocates and doctors and team leaders and teachers, and I guess that's the job of the sports medicine physician. You kind of do it all, and it was great to hear your perspectives and your passion. So thank you for getting personal. Thank you for teaching us about your career experiences and your journey. Lastly, I want to end. We have 2 announcements. We have one more MSIG webinar. Well, we have a couple more, but the next one is on November 9th at 7:30 p.m. Central Time. And it's going to be on research in sports medicine. And then on November 14th, Sunday, it's 4 to 5 p.m. Central Time. We have our Trivia Bowl, which is going to be like a pub style trivia. We're going to compete on Zoom. There'll be prizes. It'll be a lot of fun. So we hope to see you there. If you'd like to do the Trivia Bowl, you have to register. You just go to the AMSSM website and click student resources, and you should see the link there. So thank you again to our speakers, and good night.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.